The Gospel of Gold by G.S. Lewis. After checking with several other members of the ship's crew, Gold finally managed to talk one of them into giving him passage, right at its departure time. The story he gave was hardly convincing, something about missing a school field trip to the ruins, but he bribed the sailor with a significant portion of his Johto Journey savings. The sailor showed him to an old hammock strung in the hold, and there he was to stay until they arrived at the other shore. Gold asked no questions and was spared having to answer any. 30 minutes into the voyage, the weather went from rainy to tempestuous. The ship rocked so violently that a cord snapped in the hold, nearly burying Gold under an avalanche of crates. He stumbled his way to the upper deck in fright, getting wrenched from the hand railing several times in the process, and thrown against the opposite wall as the boat continued to pitch. When he finally managed to clear the steps, he found the crew amid total chaos, scurrying about the deck like panicked ants. Some were bucketing water off the deck, some were tying ropes around each other's waists, and a couple were even clinging to pillars and crying out. The screaming wind made it almost impossible to hear anything, but Gold did register the phrases, "worst idea," and "turn back." Lightning illuminated the sky, and Gold saw something in the clouds that redoubled his terror. It was the dark outline of some enormous flying creature, with a long neck like a swan's, and wings that stretched from one end of the horizon to the other. Its eyes were obscured by some kind of natural mask, but Gold could somehow feel them focused specifically and exclusively upon him. An oppressive weight of loneliness and anger came suddenly upon him, and he perceived the creature's venomous will as if it were words.
"Now I have you!"
It roared with triumph.
"Now you will die, as you should have 13 years ago!"
In the midst of his fear, Gold felt a burst of indignation rise up to overcome it. "That's not fair!" he screamed to the sky as rain continued to pummel down. "I did what you wanted! I left my journey behind against everyone else's wishes but yours!"
"I wanted your death!"
The voice thundered back at him with new rage, as if offended by Gold's temerity to reply.
"And well you know it! You are in my domain now, and this ship will be your grave of steel!"
"No!" cried Gold. "I haven't done anything wrong!" His gaze fell to the crew of men who were still making a valiant group effort to keep the ship afloat. A massive wave plunged down from the starboard side, flooding the deck and eliciting several new shouts of panic. "These men aren't part of this either!" he entreated desperately. "Will you kill them too?" For a few seconds, the voice was silent. Then it spoke again, still cold as ice, but with a tone of intrigue.
"No man is innocent for as long as he is complicit to crime,"
it intoned.
"But what of them? Would you give yourself up to me if I spared them?"
Gold looked back at the sailors, everyday people that might have enjoyed safe passage if he had not insisted on coming with them. Now, they were working desperately to preserve their lives, without even knowing that he was the one who had drawn the ire of this malevolent entity upon them. None of it was fair, but if it was within his ability to make some of it right, he had to act. Gold clenched his teeth, his body aching with terror at the prospect of what he was about to do. "Yes," he whispered, "I'll do what you say." The reply was immediate.
"Jump!"
Gold had never learned to swim. It didn't matter. As soon as he had clambered his way to the guardrail at the ship's edge, a wave from behind lifted the opposite side. the ship tilted at nearly a 45-degree angle, and Gold felt himself pitch forward. He bounced off the railing, bruising his chest, and plunged headlong into the waves. If anyone on the ship had seen him go over, they had no chance to react. The boat continued its course through the tempest, leaving Gold stranded in the churning waves. "I can't believe it," he thought as he flailed his arms and fought to keep his head above water. "I woke up this morning in my house. I made my bed for the last time. Now I'm here." His strength was quickly fading, and all that fueled his struggle now was a mortal fear of the inevitable. Strangely, his mind remained coherent. "I'm really gonna die. Poor Dad. He's never going to know what happened. All these years he's taken care of me, and what do? I go and die at the start of the journey he spent his life preparing me for. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry." As he raised his head to take what might be his last full breath of air, he saw something standing on the waves, almost directly in front of him. How it had escaped his notice, even when drowning, was beyond him. It was shaped like a person, but shined with the luminous splendor of the sun. It stood on the water, as steadily as if there was an invisible sandbar directly under the current. Gold threw out his hand in supplication. "Save me!" he managed to gasp just before the water covered his head again. A glowing arm reached down and took hold of his wrist, and then he was above sea again, looking right into the face of the one who had rescued him. The last thing he remembered before losing consciousness was, "I know her face."